Penguin Random House Audio presents The Quiet Damage, QAnon and the Destruction of the American Family. This is the author, Jesselyn Cook. For my mother. Author's note. The Quiet Damage is a work of nonfiction. The narratives it contains are based to a large extent on hundreds of hours of interviews conducted over the phone, in person, and via Zoom with the characters as well as with their relatives, friends, colleagues, and other pertinent individuals. While working to verify their accounts, I also reviewed text messages, emails, phone records, Facebook chat logs, academic and employment documents, medical files, personal essays, letters, and journal entries, along with public records and open source information, including housing records, live and archived social media posts, police reports, and court documents. Some details, such as elements of a character's childhood memory, could not be concretely corroborated. When possible, I consulted with people who were privy to the information in question to confirm its accuracy. Nonetheless, in writing this book, I relied in part on characters' recollections and interpretations of events that shaped their lives. Their stories are their stories, bravely shared here with you at personal risk. To protect their privacy, they are all identified by pseudonyms. This excludes public figures and experts quoted in their professional capacities. Certain familial details and personal identifying characteristics, like a character's physical attributes for one example, have also been changed for this reason. To help me narratively reconstruct scenes I did not witness, in as much detail as possible, characters shared images and other supporting materials with me, such as videos of a specific booth at a restaurant where an important conversation had previously occurred, or they brought me to places in person to observe for myself. They also answered many, many questions about details major and minute, down to the texture of a couch cushion or the precise length of a phone call. I am immensely, endlessly grateful to each of them. Prologue. Shed My DNA. Emily. Adam used to view his life in two parts: life before losing his dad, and life after. It happened a month shy of his 9th birthday and a month after Super Bowl 34, when the Tennessee Titans faced off against the St. Louis Rams. Despite his protests, Adam had stayed home to watch on TV while his dad drove out to be there in person. The next morning was a school day, after all. It was the only Titans game they'd been a part all season, and a nail-biter to the very end. With 6 seconds left on the clock, the Titans tried for a score-tying touchdown. They fell 1 yard short. It was the team's first Super Bowl appearance in franchise history, and the last game Adam's dad would ever see. Just after dark in their quiet Tennessee town on March 1st, 2000, he slipped into the barn outside their family home, pointed a .357 Magnum revolver at his chest, and turned Adam's world upside down. The first part of Adam's life was damn near perfect. He was the baby of the family, a skinny, bright-eyed, and incessantly curious kid whose only worries were finishing his homework and quarreling with his twin sisters. They lived on a sprawling country estate with a long gravel driveway snaking back from the road to their own sequestered oasis. It was a grand yet charming property, the kind of upscale Tudor-style home with a butter yellow and red brick exterior covered in flowering vines that one might expect to find in a luxury cottage magazine. To a 4th-grade boy, it was also a giant playground. There was a cornfield, a pond with white water lilies that was large enough to swim and fish in, a dense forest, an apple orchard, a basketball court, the barn, and, inside, a big TV room with a pinball machine where Adam and his dad, Dan, watched sports together. The two would hide out in there for hours, leaping from the couch to high-five at each touchdown or home run. Game day was Adam's favorite day. It didn't matter who or what was playing. Any time he got to spend alone with his dad was special. Dan was an important man. Adam understood this from a young age. He was known to most as Dr. Porter, the oncologist, but to Adam, he was a hero. Dan was an unfailingly endearing man with disarming blue eyes, deep-set dimples that perked up when he laughed, and a mop of salt and pepper hair that he'd comb behind his ears on workdays. He was the tallest guy in every room. He was also immensely successful and indulged in his wealth, smoking the finest Cuban cigars, driving high-end luxury cars, and attending the kind of prestigious, exclusive sporting events that most people only dream of. The World Series, the Masters, the Olympics, the Super Bowl. Wickedly smart and deadly funny, he could turn his children's grumpiest days into giggle fests with silly pranks and goofy voices. He liked to take his son out for rides in the passenger seat of his convertible, shuttling him to soccer games or taekwondo lessons with the top down. With the wind in his hair and his daddy by his side, Adam felt invincible. He was his father's son and his mother's baby. Emily Porter loved each of her children endlessly. She told them so daily and showered them with hugs and kisses, even in public, as they'd try to wriggle free from her embrace. At the same time, she was the disciplinarian of the household, quick to scold, but also quick to forgive, especially Adam. As her youngest, he could do no real wrong in her eyes. When she wasn't caring for her kids, Emily was out in the barn. It was her private bliss. She had grown up on a small cattle ranch and now ran her own one-woman farm with a couple cows and goats, a few hens, a rooster, 2 rescued pigs, and an alpaca. It was purely a labor of love, producing only enough eggs and milk for their family breakfast table. But to watch her work was to witness an artist at her craft. She had a way of making the most grueling tasks look effortless, with a sleek golden blonde braid down her back and such a petite frame it was remarkable to see her hauling around bales of straw and slop buckets on her own. Emily didn't have many friends. She had always seemed to have found it easier to connect with animals, and she preferred solo hobbies. The few people who truly knew her knew that she would do anything for them, and that she expected the same in return. They knew that behind the cool, reserved exterior the rest of the world saw was an intensely caring, vulnerable woman who was, in fact, prone to oversharing, overreacting, and overextending herself for those she loved. Emily was working as an interior designer in the early 80s when she met a dashing medical intern named Dan who laughed like a sailor and dressed like a Kennedy. It was a whirlwind romance. Within a year, she had left everything behind to follow him around the country for his residency and fellowship, marrying him along the way. They eventually settled down outside of Nashville, trading a fast-paced life for one of opulent small-town charm with bucolic pastures nestled amid forests of white oaks, sweet gums, and pines. As ruralites, Dan could commute into the city and Emily could be a stay-at-home mom with lots of land and fresh air. It was a happy marriage in its early years. Only toward the end did 8-year-old Adam notice that something might be wrong. Things were different in the days following the Super Bowl. His parents barely spoke to each other. When they did, his mom would yell and cry. His dad even started sleeping away from the house. Adam didn't know where. On February 29th, Dan picked Adam up and took him out for lunch, just the two of them. They talked, they laughed, they had wings. Everything felt normal again, like it would all be okay. After arriving back at the house, Dan handed his son a card. It was white with 2 cartoon bears on the front and a thick red border filled with little candy cane-striped hearts. Inside was a short message scrawled in black ink. I love you very much. I miss you. Love, Daddy. It was the last time Adam ever saw him. The next day was a blur, one that each sibling would remember slightly differently. Adam recalls sitting at the top of the stairs with his sisters, listening in silent distress to the muffled sounds of their parents shouting in a room below, out of sight. Things went quiet for a while, until suddenly, a lineup of patrol cars blasted down the driveway. Emily appeared and rushed the children out onto the front porch, where they sat alone on the swing in flashes of red and blue until an officer put them into the back of his car and drove away, without explaining anything. As small as he was, Adam felt cramped. He tucked his knees into his chest and tried to calm himself down. The mother of one of his soccer teammates was waiting for them at the end of the driveway. She took them to the mall, bought them ice cream cones, and told them everything would be all right. Adam, Leah, and Jessica returned home the following afternoon to find their mother, red-faced and puffy-eyed, sitting next to their paternal grandparents. Adam was surprised to see them. Visits were usually up at their house on Easter or Thanksgiving. Only then did he notice something that would define the second part of his life: the absence of his father. As a newly single mother to 3 heartbroken children, Emily had no time to mourn. She immediately enrolled them in bereavement classes to work through their grief, never seeking any professional support herself.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?